Hi, my name is Shell. Thank you for coming to check out this flow. If you enjoy it, I have a website with lots of flows just like this one. We also have meditations, workshops, guest instructors, lots of things yoga. So come check us out if you have a good time today. Hello and welcome to day one of the Yoga Bum 5-day challenge. My name's Shell. I'm so excited that you're joining me for these 5 days of yoga. I designed this week to give you a little taste of Flow 365, which is my longer yoga program. But really, I'm just hoping that these 5 days helps introduce you to yoga if you haven't done it before. And if you're already familiar with yoga, I hope it just leaves you feeling really good in and proud of your body. Today we're going to start lying on your back, so go ahead and make your way there. Just to a comfortable laying down position with your feet planted into the mat and your knees pointed upwards so that your low back is releasing towards the ground. Today's flow is going to be focused on your low back, releasing there, and in conjunction with that, hips. Hips have a lot to do with how your back is feeling. So we're going to open those up as well. Find some stillness here. Maybe close your eyes. And then do a quick full body scan, starting with your feet, working your way up your legs, your ankles, and just noticing how everything is feeling. Maybe let your knees drop over to the right and then drop over to the left. Notice how your hips and your glutes and your low back are feeling. Working your way up through your core, your shoulders, your arms, your wrists, all the way up to the crown of your head. Now maybe let your head fall over to the right, fall over to the left. And then start to notice your breathing. Lying in this position, your chin is naturally tucked in towards your neck, opening up that airway. Maybe take a couple inhales through your nose and then let the air exhale through your mouth. Take one more breath like that. Inhale through your nose and exhale out your mouth. Now go ahead and seal your lips. Start to take that air in and out just through your nose. From here, we're going to move into some gentle bridging. Maybe blink your eyes open. And then bring your heels to where they're touching your fingertips. And then just lift your hips a few inches off the ground. We're just getting started. Give this like a 30% effort. Just engaging your glutes, engaging your hamstrings. Pressing into your shoulders. Give it one more inhale. And then on your exhale, lower back down one vertebrae at a time, all the way down to your hips. Take a happy baby, reach for the outsides of your feet. Start to open through your hips and hamstrings. It might feel good to rock from side to side in this position, or you can just hold still, either way. Pressing your low back into the ground. And then we're going to take another round of bridging. Let's make this one a little bit more energetic. Try and lift just one more inch up off the ground. Go ahead and lift up. You're pressing into your feet, pressing into your shoulders, into your hands. Maybe walk your shoulder blades together. That'll lift you another inch or so higher off the ground. Focusing on your breath here, noticing how this feels. And then lowering back down. Go ahead and counter that back bend, either just pulling your knees into your chest and curling up into a ball, or moving back towards that happy baby. And then wherever you are, pull your knees into your chest. We're going to take some big rocks up and down your spine, all the way from your tailbone to the crown of your head. Big rocks. And then eventually, you're going to rock up to this kind of froggy squat at the top of your mat. It's called Malasana. Heels are pointed in, toes are pointed out, feet are kind of at a 45-degree angle. If your heels are not touching the ground, that's okay. Or you can try to take your feet out a little bit wider, that might help. Or you can slide something underneath your heels, like a rolled up towel or something. Sometimes this one's a little funky to get into at first. Your hands can be on the ground or at heart center. If they're at heart center, you can press against your hands to open up your legs and start to open through your hips a little bit more. Give it a little rock from side to side. And then bring your hands to the mat. Pivot your heels out so that your feet are parallel. Reach for opposite elbows and hang really heavy here. Releasing through your low back. No tension in your head or neck. Maybe give it a sway from side to side. And then you're going to plant your left hand right under your face. From here, you'll either reach your right arm up towards the ceiling, or you can just take that right hand to your right hip. Either option is great. Try to think about keeping your hips level. Maybe take your gaze up over your right shoulder towards that hand if it's lifted, or just up past that shoulder if your hand's on your hip. Go ahead and release that hand back down and start to walk both hands over to the right. You're going to pivot so both toes are pointed towards the right as well. Both legs are going to be straight, and you're folding over this right leg. This is called pyramid pose. It should be a pretty intense stretch in the back of that right hamstring. Sending your breath towards the back of your right leg. Walk your hands back towards the top of your mat. Turn your heels back in. Sink your hips down, returning to that Malasana squat. Now, if this is comfortable for you, try to take your weight more into your heels in this squat so that your spine can be really tall. Crown of your head's pulling up, tailbone is pulling down. And hands back down to the mat. Turn your heels out, back to that forward fold. This time, planting your right hand right under your face. Take your left hand either to that left hip or extend it overhead, trying to keep your hips level. Finding a twist through your mid back here. Go ahead and release that left hand back down. We're walking everything over to the left. Toes point to the left, hips point to the left. Both legs are straight, folding over that left leg pyramid. Very nice. Walk back to center, turn your heels in, sit your hips down, right back to that squat. Now from here, we're going to step back to a lizard pose. So you're going to plant your hands on the mat. Big step back with your left foot. So your right foot is on the outside of your right hand. Rocking forward and back here, stay lifted on your left toes. Imagine a weight attached to that left hip, pulling it down toward the ground. Opening through the front of that left hip. And then really strong here, stabilizing through your core, you're going to step your right foot back to a high plank. Pressing into your hands, finding some space between your shoulder blades. Pull your low belly in. Just one more breath here. And then on the exhale, slowly bring your knees to the ground, finding a tabletop. Move through a few rounds of cat-cow. On your inhale, drop your belly, look up towards the ceiling. Exhale, press into your hands and round through your spine as much as you can. Inhale, look up. Exhale, round. Imagine you're finding space in between your vertebrae. Come back to that neutral tabletop position. Inhale, reach up with your right arm, and then see if you can take that right hand to your left hip. If you can't, take it to your low back. Grab your shirt, grab your pants. Just take that right hand behind your back somehow. And then let your left ear drop towards your left shoulder. You're just looking for some length in that right side of your neck. You might need to rock your head forward or back. Just find the place that feels the best on that right side of your neck. Re-extend that arm back towards the ceiling and then thread your right arm under your left. You're dropping down onto your right shoulder. Crawl your left hand over to the right side of your mat for a twist. So nice. Plant your left hand next to your face. Rise up, coming back to a tabletop. And then from here, crawl your hands out. We're moving to a puppy pose. Puppy pose, you want to keep your knees at a 90-degree angle. And then arms are parallel. Your chest or your chin or your forehead are pulling towards the mat. It should be a pretty intense shoulder stretch. Maybe close your eyes, focus on your breath, find some stillness here. Finding stillness in the discomfort. From here, we're shifting forward, coming onto your belly in a Sphinx pose. Go ahead and take some circles through your neck. Sometimes it feels really nice just to let your head hang heavy here. Just letting your forehead pull towards the mat. From here, lower all the way down onto your belly. Take your arms long at your side, palms facing up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to move into a round of back bending here. So on your inhale, lift your chest up off the ground. On your exhale, float your legs up off the ground. Your fingertips are reaching back towards your feet. Building strength in your back. Keep your spine in a nice neutral place, just looking at the floor. You don't want to put any pressure in your neck. Lift a little higher for one more inhale, and then exhale, lower down. Take your right arm out to a T, and we're rolling open onto that right shoulder by stepping your left foot behind your right leg. Your left hand can be wherever you want. Very nice. Go ahead and roll back to center. Press back, child's pose. Big toes together, knees out nice and wide, torso releasing towards the ground. From this child's pose, we're making our way to our first downward facing dog. Tuck your toes, lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Fingers spread nice and wide. Start to work into the backs of your legs. If your knees are bent and your heels are lifted, that's totally fine. Thinking about finding a nice long spine, a long line from your wrists all the way to your hips. Bend your knees, look between your hands, and we're going to take a big step back up to that Malasana squat. So step your right foot to the outside of your right hand, your left foot to the outside of your left hand, and then sink your hips back down. Let's take a twist here. Bring your right hand down to the mat and your left hand either to your left knee or up towards the ceiling. And then take it over to the other side. Twisting is so good for your spine, for back pain. Come back to center. Press your hands together, open up your knees just a little bit more. And then this time, stepping way back with your right foot, your left foot is on the outside of your left hand. Rocking forward and back in this lizard pose. Really focusing on opening up through that right hip flexor. Letting gravity pull that hip down towards the ground. And then really strong here, step that left foot back to meet the right, a high plank. Fingers spread nice and wide. One long line between the crown of your head, all the way to your heels. Low belly pulls in. Just a couple more breaths here. Put a smile on your face. You can do this. One more really big inhale. And then lower your knees down to the mat, coming to a tabletop position. Moving through a few more rounds of cat-cow here. Inhale, looking up. Exhale, rounding, focusing on your breath and connecting that breath to your movement. Super awesome. Return to a neutral place. Extend your left arm up towards the ceiling, reaching that left hand behind you for your right hip or grabbing onto your clothes. And then let your right ear pull towards your right shoulder, finding lots of length through the left side of your neck. And re-extend that left arm up. Thread it underneath your right arm. Drop down onto your left shoulder and your left cheek. Your right arm reaches over towards the left side of your mat. Plant your right hand next to your face. Press into that hand, moving back to a tabletop, and then walking your hands out towards that puppy pose. Hips up, arms parallel, chest pulling towards the ground. Noticing if the fronts of your shoulders feel any more open this time. Shift forward and through onto your belly, a Sphinx pose. And then lower all the way down onto your chest. This time, reach your hands behind you, interlace your fingers, and then use that grip to pull your chest up off the mat. Float your legs, Shalavasana. Again, keeping your neck in a safe place. Gaze is just at the mat. Feel the muscles running along your spine engaged. The muscles in the back of your legs lift a little bit higher. And then as you lower down, extend your left arm out to a T. Step your right foot back behind you. Head is on the mat, sending your breath to that left shoulder. So nice. Roll back onto your belly. Press up and back, child's pose. Bringing your attention to your breath here. And then tuck your toes, lift your hips right back to a downward facing dog. Either finding some more movement here if you feel like you need to work into this shape a little bit more, or just finding stillness. Taking your gaze right above your knees. Picturing your tailbone pulling up towards the ceiling. Lift up high onto your tippy toes, big step, or maybe try a jump, moving back to that squat. Feet to the outside of your hands. Malasana. Hands to the mat, forward fold, lift your hips. Inhale, rise up with a flat spine. Exhale, arms to your side, step your feet in, shoulder distance apart. Now we're gonna move through a vinyasa here. Inhale, arms and gaze lift overhead, looking up. Exhale, fold forward. And then on your inhale, bring your hands to your shins, look out with a flat back. From here, bring your hands to the mat, either step or jump back to a high plank. We're gonna take a push-up, maybe drop down onto your knees here. Squeeze your elbows in, hovering about an inch off the mat. And then press into your hands, peel your chest through, upward facing dog. Exhale all the way back to a downward facing dog. From this downward facing dog, step your right foot up between your hands. Lift up really strong, a high lunge, high on your left toes, left leg is straight. Arms are actively reaching up. Drop your left heel, open warrior two. Right foot is pointed forward, left foot is pointed to the side. Make sure that right knee isn't falling in. Really deep bend in that knee. A nice tuck in your hips. From here, drop your left hand to your left leg. Reach back with your right hand, reverse your warrior. And then as you rise up, both hands come to the ground inside your right foot. We're back in that lizard, except for this time we're gonna drop down onto that left knee. And then either stay lifted with your hands on the mat, or you can drop down onto your forearms. Sending your breath towards both hips. This is a really spicy pose because it's really working both of your hips here. Try to use each exhale to surrender a little bit deeper. If you're down on your forearms, go ahead and replant your hands into the mat. Tuck your left toes behind you. Lift that left knee up off the mat. And then you're really going to ground through your left hand here. Lift that right leg. Stack it on top of your left. We're moving to a side plank. Pulling your hips up towards the ceiling. Just one more breath here, lift a little bit higher. And then plant that right hand, moving back to the high plank. We're gonna move through a vinyasa again. Squeeze your elbows, lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, peel your heart open. Exhale, a downward facing dog. Always the option to drop down onto your knees for that chaturanga push-up. From this down dog, step your left foot up. Rise up strong, high lunge. Coming as far forward as you can on your right toes. Reaching up actively with your arms. And then opening to the side, drop that right heel down, warrior two. Now you're actively reaching forward and back with your hands. Drop your right hand, reach back with your left, reverse your warrior. And as you rise up, hands come inside your left foot. Coming back to that lizard pose, dropping down onto your right knee. Maybe coming down onto your forearms. Again, sending all of your breath towards your hips. Like I said before, hips have way more to do with back pain, especially low back pain, than people give them credit for. One more really big breath here. Try to sink to your deepest point. And then start to walk your hands in if they're not already, tucking your right toes, grounding through your right hand. Step that left foot back to stack on top of your right, extending your left arm up, a side plank. One more breath here. Lift your hips a little higher. And then come to center, a high plank. Drop onto your knees if you want. Squeeze those elbows in, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, press back, child's pose. Super awesome job, you guys. We're going to start to wind things down here, so make your way back to a down dog. Bend your knees, look between your hands, a big step, or jump up to the top of your mat. Look out with a flat spine and fold over your legs. From here, just sit your hips down. Bring the soles of your feet together for a butterfly position. Baddha Konasana, maybe move your legs up and down. And then if you would like to fold forward, do it with a flat back. Use your elbows to help open up your hips a little bit more. Go ahead and rise up if you're folded. We're going to move to pigeon on the left. Keep your left leg more or less where it is. Swing that right leg behind you. And your left leg is going to be somewhere between your hips and a 90-degree angle. And then once you find a comfortable place, you can fold forward over that right leg. Try to use every exhale to sink a little bit deeper into this pose. Start to walk your hands back in, sit onto your left hip, bring that right leg back around, and we're just going to move over to pigeon on the right. So again, figuring out where that right leg needs to be, what that angle needs to look like. It might be the same as your first side, it might be totally different. And then once you've squared off your hips, go ahead and maybe fold forward over that right shin. Trying to release any tension that you might be holding in your low belly or your low back. Very nice. Go ahead and walk your hands back in. Sit onto your right hip. Let's take one more round of Baddha Konasana. Bring the soles of your feet together. Sit up really tall and then fold forward with a flat spine. You're leading with your chest. As you rise up, go ahead and slide your heels out about another 5 or 6 inches, and then recline all the way down onto your mat, leaving your legs in this diamond shape. Bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly, and just notice your chest and belly rise and fall with each inhale and exhale. Just finding some stillness here. Noticing the support that the ground and your mat offer you. Recognizing your breath as an exchange of energy between yourself and the universe around you. Now from here, option to leave your legs like this if this feels really nice to you, or extend your legs long into a more traditional supine position for Savasana. Bring your arms to your sides with your palms facing up. And similarly, let your feet fall open towards the ceiling. You're just completely relaxed here. Releasing any tension in your low belly, in your low back, in your neck and shoulders, just completely melting towards your mat. Even noticing if there's any tension between your eyebrows, in your jaw. Pull your tongue away from the roof of your mouth. Close your eyes if they're not already. And then take your mind to a very quiet place for the next couple of minutes, letting go of that control over your breath and just finding stillness. Savasana. Let's start to reawaken here, bringing your mind back to the present, back to your mat. Take a really intentional inhale, breathing some energy back into your body. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Maybe rock your head from side to side. And then start to let that energy grow. If your legs are still in that diamond shape, gently, gently use your hands to close your knees together. Maybe rock your knees from right to left. Maybe take a full body stretch, reaching your arms overhead. And then over the next few breaths, make your way back to a seated place. Maybe roll off to one side or the other in a fetal position on your way there. Taking your time. Once you arrive in that seated place, bring your hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you feel great. I hope you enjoyed the first day of this 5-day challenge, and I will see you back tomorrow. Namaste.